Hierarchical or better than type thinking. Okay, so here's something to think about. What if the way we think about hierarchy in our daily lives is actually holding us back? Today, we're diving into why hierarchies might only make sense in organizations and how it could be doing more harm than good outside of them. It's such an interesting concept because the concept of hierarchy feels so ingrained in how we operate. It's everywhere, at work, in social groups, in families, etc. But maybe we've been applying it in places where it doesn't belong. The argument starts here with hierarchies within organizations having a clear-cut purpose. They create structure, define roles, and ideally, it helps things run smoothly. But when you take that same mindset and apply it to your personal life, it can lead to all kinds of problems, like validation seeking, unhealthy comparison, and they are always found within toxic relationships due to the perceived toxic need for control and dominance. Outside of structured environments, hierarchy often stops being about order and starts being about ego. It becomes this game of who's better or more important, and that can be extremely damaging. One of the current terms that comes up in this context is high value. You hear people talking about who is or isn't a high value person, but what does that even mean? And more importantly, is it a helpful way to think about human worth? That's such a good question. I think the argument here is that the real high value people aren't the ones flaunting their wealth, their looks, or their status. It's the people who are aligned with something deeper, something you might call a sense of higher purpose. When we are living a life of desirable purpose, we are aligning with our life path. Our life path is our purpose and aligns directly with the divine. It's about character, not external markers of success. Our current social climate applies personal value to inanimate objects. So much of what we see in society equates value with things like money, beauty, or popularity. But those things don't necessarily tell you anything about a person's character. These things are fine in and of themselves. However, if we are awarding ourselves with a lofty status solely based upon them, we are truly lost. The point here is that character is the true measure of value. It's what really matters in the long run, and it's what actually contributes to personal growth. Growth is by far more aligned ascension. Ascension, by the way, isn't something you can fake or buy. It's earned through real physical actions, actions to which we both decide as well as define. As actions are ultimately what we choose to do with our time. We all have the same calling to focus on what truly matters and to stop getting distracted by superficial things. But let's break this down a bit more. Why do you think hierarchical thinking in everyday life is so problematic? What's the real danger in it? I believe that it comes down to the fact that it encourages personal comparison. If you're constantly trying to figure out where you stand in relation to others, you're not focusing on your own growth. You're looking outward instead of inward. And that can lead to all types of negative emotions such as envy, insecurity, arrogance, etc. It's just not a healthy way for a peaceful society to live. This is one of the reasons why our current world modality works the way it does. It's a poorly constructed value system that does not promote soul growth, nor does it promote and support peaceful integration. How can a societal structure align cohesively when we're always chasing something external, something that's ultimately out of our control? That's where the validation-seeking energy comes in. It's a society built upon looking for other people to confirm our own self-worth, instead of finding it within ourselves. The irony is that the people who are truly high value do not consider seeking validation as a high-value effort. They're not playing the better than game. They're focused on their own journey, their own soul's progress, which is exactly why we are all here. The switch in perspective to personal soul growth is an incredibly powerful shift in mindset. Instead of worrying about how you measure up to others, you're putting your energy into becoming the best version of yourself. It's about character, not comparison. The only comparisons of value are linked to who you were, who you are now, and who you will ultimately become in the future, all of which is controlled by you. Character isn't something you can shortcut. It's not something you can buy or fake. It takes real work, work that's often invisible to others, but it's the kind of work that leads to true growth and fulfillment. So, let's talk about what that work looks like. What does it mean to align with ascension-based thinking? How do you actually do the work of building your character? Well, I think it starts with self-awareness. You have to be willing to look at yourself honestly and ask, where can I improve? Where am I falling short? And that's not always easy. It requires humility and a willingness to change. And it's not just about identifying your flaws, right? It's also about recognizing your strengths and using them to contribute to something bigger than yourself. It's about service to others and treating them respectfully. This is where we come to understand that a positive life is about living in alignment with your values. Getting those values right is tantamount to the development of your soul. That's where the idea of being too busy for high school popularity type thinking comes in. If you're focused on your own growth and your own soul's progression, you don't have time to get caught up in superficial games. You're operating on a different level. It's like giving yourself permission to step off the hamster wheel of comparison to focus on what really matters. I understand that it's sometimes easier said than done, especially in a world that's so obsessed with status and appearances. It's definitely a challenge. But I think the key is to surround yourself with people who share this mindset, people who value character over appearance, people who are also committed to their own soul growth. When you're in that kind of environment, it's easier to stay focused on what really matters. And what about the people who don't share that mindset? The ones who are disrespectful or caught up in superficial games? The advice here is pretty clear. Avoid them. If they are currently in your life, you will likely have to let them go. It's not about judging or looking down on them. It's just about protecting your own energy and staying true to your path by aligning to people with a similar growth-based focus. If someone is consistently disrespectful or toxic, it's okay to distance yourself. You don't have to engage with that kind of energy, and it does not matter who they are to you. They can be friends, family, coworkers, business partners, relationship partners, etc. The point here is all about setting good, strong personal boundaries. Setting strong boundaries isn't about being mean or dismissive. It's about taking care of yourself and staying aligned with your values. Then holding fair boundaries as the baseline levels of shared, equal common respect. Sometimes this unfortunately means walking away from certain people or situations. I understand this isn't easy, but it is oftentimes necessary to protect your peace. And when you do so, you create space for the right people and opportunities to come into your life. It's like making room for growth, for ascension. So, to wrap this up, it seems like the main takeaway here is to shift your focus from external validation to internal growth. Stop worrying about where you stand in some imaginary hierarchy and start putting your energy into becoming the best version of yourself. Always remember that character is the true measure of value. It's not about how you look, how much money you have, or how popular you are. It's about how you treat others, how you live within your own values, and how committed you are to your own growth. This is how we align with our own life path. Valuing self first is not selfish. You weren't born to be the full-time support in another person's life. Your best life is on the other side of choosing ascension-based thinking, actions, and purpose. If you enjoyed this video, please check out my book and my website. The book is called Truth, the Frequency of the Divine, and my website is guardianspiritualadvisor.com. And if you want to help out, I have the donation tab available as well. I'd like to thank everybody for checking it out.